Welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks, a show designed to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also to help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Cathrine begins now.
Welcome and welcome back. I am Catherine James, international speaker, best-selling author, trauma-informed coach, and your host for this show, Where Her Heart Speaks. I know that I often say I'm excited to have someone with me when I have guests, and all of them are like my favorite. And I have to say again, I have another favorite. And what I often say, is I am blessed. And sometimes it feels like overkill because I hear myself saying it multiple times, but all that I can kind of narrow it down to is I am blessed. I am blessed to have beautiful souls in my life that I get to share space with. And this week, I have someone who I call one of my people joining me. I'm super excited, my friend Torin Widhammer. And I'm going to have Torin talk about herself, but Torin is, like I said, one of my people, someone who is very special to me, someone that I met a few years ago in a coaching course that we were taking at the same time. We just connected. We connected and we have built a very special bond via Zoom and then in person when she invited me to play with her on a contract that she was awarded. And we are going to dive in, and this is another one of these free form conversations. So you're just kind of peering in and listening to our thoughts. But we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about coaching. We're going to talk about friendships. And then Torin and I conversations always go all over. So you whatever you get, you get. But before we go there, Torin, hey.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you. Just tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll start this conversation.
Yeah, I'm Torin. I've been coaching for going on 10 years, which every time I think that, I am surprised. I'm like, wow, I've been doing this for what feels like a long time. And yeah, ICF accredited. I'm a coactive trained coach by heart, which just essentially means I'm here to collaborate and partner with people to help them get what they want out of life. And
Yeah.
myself described coaching title, like my job title, is that I'm a radical fire starter. So that's the energy that I bring, and I think it's good to give people like a warning. Watch out.
Yes,
She's
it
fire.
really is the energy you bring. From with an undercurrent, I'm going to say of love. So
Yeah.
you can be a radical fire starter and have an undercurrent of love, and it doesn't feel so radical. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I feel like this is important this is where radical is spelled different, right? It's
Yeah.
my coaching brand is RADICLE, which is not radical like free radicals. It's more like uh, the first root that leaves a seed and enters the ground, and that's where we coach, right? That first part of you that we really work hard to get to, and that takes a whole lot of love and a whole lot of courage.
Yeah. Yeah. See that was beautiful right there. Just going back to define, clarify your radical, and it tied right back into love, right? Which
Yeah.
is why it doesn't feel like it's radical. 'Cause-
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so we kind of were having a conversation. Torn is another, like I said, one of my people, someone that I get into very in-depth and involved conversations with when we are connecting, which is why we're here. And just was like, well, what do we want to talk about? What do we want to talk about? And one of the things that I realize I've not talked about on Where Her Heart Speaks is the or are the benefits of coaching. So I thought, well, what better person to have this conversation with than Torin? So we're going to talk about the benefits of coaching, and then the conversation is going to shift because there's something that both she and I realize is needed and brewing in the world. So you'll hear the shift. I'm not going to give that. Um, and then there was some questions that I pulled up. We may get into those questions, but I think the first thing, um, as we start, the first place that I want to talk about is the benefits that both she and I receive as a result of being coached. Now, before getting on, I shared with Torin just an idea that came to me. I wasn't sure if I was going to share it. I'll share it because I think it's important, definitely for the times that we're in. But I'm going to ask you to go first, Torin, and
Mhm.
just share a bit about how coaching has changed your life or benefited you.
Mm. Yeah, I wouldn't. Catherine asked me this the first time. I was like, well, it gave me myself,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest gift of coaching. Now,
Mm,
what does that mean? That's the conversation, right? What does it mean that coaching gave you yourself?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, we can get into that if you want.
Yeah, I think the best way is to let's go back a little bit and look at the Torin before coaching. This is the setup because nobody conversations. We don't know where we're going, right? But this is what just came up.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the radical Torin, one who was just fire,
Mm,
um, really angry for a lot of reasons, um, and like without direction, without real confidence, right? The anger, the striving for power over,
mm,
kind of this like more aggressive version of myself, um, was all over the top of somebody who didn't really believe that they had any power to
yeah.
do anything.
Mm.
And so it was kind of compensating for. Um,
You know,
compens- yeah.
that my language, the trauma response,
Hmm.
showed up as anger and power over.
Yep.
And then the beautiful thing is that you are all those qualities. It just,
Now they're a strength. They're
yeah,
not working against me so hard.
yeah.
Oh man.
So before coaching, they were working against you and everyone else that crossed your path.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like burning bridges. It was disconnection in all of these different relationships on various levels and losing friendships.
Mhm.
Um, Still working really hard. I think we've talked about this before, how, I was raised to be a very strong, very independent person. And yeah, some of that needed to be unlearned.
Mhm.
And the coaching gave me that gift.
Yeah, yeah. And now you get to impart love and address and deal with individuals, um, from the innermost space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I think that's what has allowed us to connect at the level in which we've connected.
Hmm.
When I thought of the question and having this conversation and what I shared a bit earlier with Torin is because of coaching, I can have a relationship with someone if you had two pictures of individuals and you put those pictures side by side, there is a slim chance that one would guess there would be a friendship as deeply as Torin and I have. We laughed because we have a lot of opposites, a lot of differences. As I'm looking at her now, she's got a mohawk, ponytail, white female, and I have twisted out hair or twisted hair, black woman. We are very different when it comes to religion. We're in different generations. And we are able to come together and truly be friends, truly love on the human being and not see or allow the differences to get in the way. Like we acknowledge, that's a part of who we are, right? So we get to acknowledge our differences, but we are conscious enough in building and supporting the human being that we don't allow those differences to get in the way. And for me, I can say that is a result of coaching that I have to attribute to my healing process. Because in the past, I probably would have dismissed, the Torin being a person that could understand me, a person that I could frequent circles with, these notions, preconceived notions that we have. And that's not the case. That's not the case. As I sit and just look and feel grateful, thankful that this is my person. She's one of my people.
Same. Yeah.
Now, you had said something about that just in terms of how we've been conditioned.
Mm.
And I'd like for you to speak to that, how we've been conditioned to believe we're supposed to be.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we could go way back on this one. I think it starts when we're little, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do it on your own, do it independently. When are we giving praise to our children? Anytime they're doing something by themselves. Wow, you did that by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How often are we saying, wow, you asked for help?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, you were doing a really great job connecting with this other person. So I think we can go all the way back down there, and that gets reinforced over and over. It's a lot of how we go to school, right? Like you're working on independent papers and not really collaborated in groups. And this has probably changed a lot since I went to school.
I went to school.
But I think that's some of it. It's definitely how my parents raised me. They wanted somebody who could take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And in a lot of ways, that's a very beautiful gift that they've given me.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I've learned out of that through coaching, right, is it's okay to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say, hey, I really want to be your friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh.
Like, hey. Yeah.
Vulnerability showed up when you said that. I'm like, I'm sure somebody's soul was like,
Can you just ask if you can be friends? Yes, you can, like the little kids do. I
yeah,
love watching
yeah,
kids like go out there and just be friends on the playground.
yeah, yeah. And I think there's some conditioning that happens implicitly as we watch um, how relationships are formed, or our parents, who they have over to the house. We get to see who we should connect with and maybe who we shouldn't connect with. And sometimes it's verbalized and sometimes it's not. And as I began to really step into this coaching space.
Mhm.
I saw, and we know it's no secret, there's not a lot of minorities in the coaching space.
Yeah.
Um, so I started not necessarily gravitating towards people, but there was almost this dual attraction that started taking place. Not with everyone, because just because you're a coach don't make you does not make you my person. Like, yeah, like stay over there. But I got to really understand that there are some beautiful people whom have done work. And if we have done our own work, we're able to let go of some of our responses, those protective responses, and enter into relationships with beautiful people. And this is the shift that I talked about a little bit and said that I wasn't going to say. So the shift is talking about friendships and women having these friendships that are not these surface type friendships, but friendships that are so deep, so deeply connected. Torin and I were talking about this and just looking at how there's not enough of it. I feel I feel for many women because I know that there's a longing. We have statistics that says there's a longing. Um, there's this loneliness epidemic at play currently, and there's this longing for people. You know, you can have people around you and still be lonely, right? So what I gather from that is there's this longing for deep connections.
Mhm.
And so if we look at television, I'm thinking about all of the like housewives and the reality shows and how it appears that these people are having the times of their lives, but they're so surfacey.
Mm.
And I'm grateful because as a result of the coaching community, as a result of going through my own coaching, I am able to have a very, I want to say under the surface type relationship um, with many different women that I know I can call. Um, as I say, Torin is one of my people. Torin is one of the people that I know I can call if I am celebrating a win, right? And she's going to be right there celebrating with me. Um, if I'm having a very low point and can't pull myself up, I can't coach myself out of my mess, I know that I can call Torin and Torin is going to be right there. So I want to have you speak to this a bit.
Yeah.
Just as we think about women and friendships and what that really means.
Yeah. It's actually reminded me of how I met my coach, my first coach, Mara, right? Who was Cathrine knows Mara. We worked together. Mara's been my mentor for forever. Um, and even before we started coaching, she was somebody who showed up differently in the world as this loud, like she's got this laugh that fills the room, right? And like immediately when she entered this room and she fills this room with her laughter, like I was like, this is somebody I need to know. And like we hit the fast forward button. This was in college, and she was the director of career and alumni services. Hit the fast forward button. I'm in my last semester, trying to graduate. I don't have enough money to cover my last bit of tuition. I don't have money for groceries. Mara's like, all right, what can we do? And she uses a bunch of coaching with me, right? What ideas do you have? And some of it's just resources, like what resources are out there? And she has me like, I mean, she has me. I also chose to write every one of my teachers, asking them to vouch for why I could use a scholarship, or why they could put me on a payment plan. And all of my teachers do. And it ends up getting to the original founding family of the school, and they gave me a scholarship to cover the end of the tuition. And I think most people, when they've helped, will be like, awesome, great. But Mara went a step further and she said, okay, but what are you eating? And at the time I wasn't. Like, it was a rough time. And she said, and I said, oh, Mara, you've done so much to help me. I don't need any more help. And uh, she's like, well, you can either choose what I bring you for food, or I can just pick. And I said, well, whatever you want to bring would be lovely. I'm not picky at all. And she brought me these 2 giant bags of groceries. And it was the first time I think I'd ever been cared for that deeply. I got the financial needs met. I got my nutrition needs met. And there was that other need, like that love and connection and safety met in a relationship. And now that I look back at it, well, what was the coaching skills happening there? Mara was just deeply aligned with her integrity.
Yeah.
And she does what she says she's going to do. And that's one of those beautiful gifts of coaching, is that we help people do what they say they're going to do, which in friendship, how often are we saying, yeah, I'm going to call, or yeah, we should get up, we should get together, and we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's just what came to mind with that story.
That's so Mara, for
It
starters.
is.
I was also thinking, I'm like, yeah, coach the person, not the problem, right? So, the person had a need. The problem was
Yeah.
there was no tuition, but overall, there was still this person underneath that. And she's like, yeah, we gotta do it all. You need to eat. I see you. And help you make sure that you're okay at the end of it. And that is the beauty of coaching and the beauty of having friends that are,
The
I
food,
say, go ahead.
the food was a friendship thing, right? That's not what we do in coaching, but
Right.
it is what we do in friendship. So
Yeah.
sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, when you're regulated enough, because she could have easily stopped, like you said, at okay, she has a scholarship. And let me now go back on with my life. Let me go back to my planning, go back to my overachieving, go back to my, growing, whatever it was that she was doing. But the regulated person, the integrity of Mara, really who she is, that I care about other people, was able to say, wait a minute, we can't stop there. We can't
No.
stop there. And while you're saying it's friendship, it was a very new friendship at the time, right? It wasn't like you guys have been friends for years. So I don't even know if we could say friendship for real. It was
Right.
a caring human being looking after another human being. And that is, I think, if we could have friendships cover those grounds, where it's
Oh,
not just because I've known you a long time or we went and hung out for a moment, but one person who cares enough to care for another person, to put life on hold, to say, I see this person and I want to be there for that person.
yeah.
I think that's the level of friendship. I've been talking about this thing, conscious community, and still unpacking it. I mentioned this to you, but it's almost being conscious enough to say, I need to pause me. I'm
Mm,
consciously making a decision to pause me so that I can reach out to Torin, right?
yep.
How many times I say, you've crossed my mind a couple of times. And then even in that, I'm feeling guilty because it's like, why didn't you reach out the first time she crossed your mind? Consciously
Yeah.
pause. And then after the third time, like, no, stop. I need to reach out to my friend. Um,
Mm,
or just, hey, I'm thinking about you, sending you good vibes, sending you love, and then you get that message back like, wow, I really needed that today.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes, those type of friendships, I think I want to just shine the light on and say, if this is not something that the listeners, you who are listening, have in your space, to begin to consider the possibility.
Mm.
Consider the possibility.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. It's I feel like there's a real challenge here, right? As women too, because we are also raised to be caregivers.
Yeah.
And so there's also like, yes, we should. I'm going to throw in a should here. Very rarely do I should on people. We should take care of each other. But it comes from a different place than should, right? It comes from a want. I want to show up for my friend. Um, I have a dear friend who had a traumatic brain injury like 5 years ago, and it reminds me of how important friendships like this are, the ones where we're deeply connected and loving of each other. Because when it first happened, we had sprinters of friendship, right? Like, I'm going to show up every day, I'm going to bring you meals, and we're going to take care of you. That lasted for a month.
Yeah.
And then it was, oh, well, this person actually needs much more care than that.
Yeah.
Then what happened to the friends?
Hmm. Hmm.
Then they start going away and start going away and start going away. And 5 years into it, there are probably, I think, four friends that have really stuck through. And I think what's important about this story is, one, caring in a way that is sustainable. We we need boundaries.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with this friend, this is the space where I can say, you know, uh, I'm not gonna share her name,
Hmm.
because I don't know if she'd be comfortable with that. But um, you know, dear friend, I really don't have the bandwidth to support you right now. How can I help in a different way? Or can I get back to you in a week? And those are really difficult things to say to somebody who's suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the gift then is, for at least this friend, was that she always knows I am saying yes because I mean yes. And she's never wondering if I think she's a burden.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if we hit the fast forward button on everybody's lives, we are going to need people like this at some point. Whether it's now, whether it's a terrible accident that happens, whether it's just simply aging, we need people in our lives.
Hmm. Hmm. I think what's so important about that, I talked about this on last week's when we were talking about boundaries. You knowing what your capacity is, you being comfortable saying, I can't do that. And when we don't have boundaries with self, we hit our capacity and continue going
Mm.
because we haven't learned to set boundaries even on ourselves. And that's how we ignore what the body is saying. It's saying, I'm tired. I really can't do that. And you're like, oh no, but I gotta be Supergirl and I'm gonna go anyway, right? And then you find yourself stretched out somewhere you don't understand why. But it always comes back to us and knowing self. Um, I love
Mm.
that you can say she knows when you say yes, that you really mean yes, and it's not a burden.
Yep.
Not a burden. And she knows that she's not a burden, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna shift our conversation, but just again going back as we think about friendships. Um, looking at, really coming to, I am mid 50s, Lord have mercy and thank. Um, and I don't know, you know, that I really took the time to define what kind of friend I wanted
Mm,
in my life, or what it meant to me, you know, how I needed to show up. This is always reciprocal, so I'll throw it out
mhm,
one way, but it's always reciprocal. How I wanted them to show up for me, um, how I wanted them to respond to me. I don't know that I have ever really sat down and evaluated that
mm,
until probably maybe over the last 2 years, but definitely in the past year, it's become very, very clear. And with that, there's almost a grieving process that starts to take place because you have to let go of the friends that maybe you've had a very long time. I say let go, you don't have to let them go, but the relationship changes. The friends that maybe you've had a long time who don't meet the criteria. That sounds like ouch in a friendship, and it's real.
mhm. Yep. Yeah, I feel like there's maybe there's this challenge too, at least this one I up against, which is like I don't have a lot. I have a few really close relationships like ours, right? Um, and then there's understanding that there are folks out there whose capacity isn't this.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, excuse the stomping down the stairs in the office here. I'm under the stairs in my little office. Um,
Those who don't have the capacity,
yeah,
it's
and
okay.
it's okay. And maybe you see them,
Yeah, yeah.
every 3 months, and it's at like a barbecue, and that's it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So none of it is making it wrong, right? Just knowing. And when I say knowing, I'm always talking an internal knowing, not a head knowing. Just
Heart no.
heartfelt. There we go. Um, knowing what you desire and honoring self.
And that that gets back to where our conversation started, right? What are the gifts of coaching?
Yeah.
Well, coaching is going to help you figure out what is it that you desire? How do you know you know? Like, what does that feel like in your body?
Yeah. 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 We were talking earlier and Torin said, she said something. I don't remember what you said, but I said, people are going to be like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, because if you've not lived something, you can't experience that thing. You don't know what that feels like. You don't know what that means if you've not lived it. I don't know. I've been on these analogies with babies. I think because I'm in the home with my daughter and the baby's coming. And I'm like, if you've never held a newborn baby and someone's like, oh my God, they were the best. They had this smell, they were soft. And like you can only imagine it, but you do not truly know what it feels like because you've not lived it. And so what we're saying is to give yourself, I always like to say, give yourself permission to actually live it, live it, what it means to know yourself enough that you can say, this is what I want. This is what I want. So as we come back, I want to just get into a couple of questions. These are questions that I just found online looking at, what might women leaders want to know if they had an opportunity to present questions to coaches. So the first question I think that I want to go to is this one, because I was talking with someone this week and I heard this a lot. How can coaching support me in overcoming imposter syndrome and self doubt in my leadership role?
Mm, it's that knowing I was talking about. And usually when I introduce people, my clients, to this idea, it's like think of a time in your life when the decision was crystal clear. Like breathe that in for a second. And now pay attention to what's happening in your body. For me, what shows up is this it's almost like this very strong, warm cord or bar that goes from my stomach all the way to my heart, and I am clear. And so, in terms of confidence and imposter syndrome, what you're doing is questioning yourself. You're questioning your knowing, questioning, am I good enough to be in this space? And it's okay to question yourself, but am I good enough is often not the right question.
Not you. I like to say imposter syndrome is a trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
And
Will
really,
you will you expand on that? How is it a trauma response?
absolutely. So, somewhere, oftentimes it's early in life, we learn who we no longer are. So, we come here a certain way. We come here, and I'll go back to babies. Babies know what they want.
Mm,
When they want to eat, they know it and they let us know by crying. When they want to be changed, they know it and they let us know. So they know what they want. Somewhere along the line, someone says, "You're not wet.
mm,
Why do you keep crying? You're not hungry. Why do you keep crying?" When you hear that over and over again, or if no one responds, then you start, and this oftentimes is implicit, meaning it's not something that happens consciously, we're unaware. You start questioning, well, am I really wet? Maybe I
mm,
shouldn't be crying. Maybe I'm not really hungry. And so the more times we do that, the more we make imprints on our own nervous system. And as we grow older in life, it becomes a habit.
mm,
It becomes a habit. And then we find ourselves as adults in leadership roles, questioning ourselves. And because we have all of these trendy, cute terms, we call it imposter syndrome. But I would offer, Justice Torin, to go back to your body and ask yourself, what do you really know? What do you really know? In that moment where you're questioning, where you're second guessing yourself, the truth is there. And now it's just about trusting the truth. And
mm,
that's where the coaching comes in, because the coach helps you to trust your truth.
mm.
Yeah, you're shaking your head. What you got to say about that?
I was like, yeah, they do. That is what a good coach does, right? Oh man. Yeah, I just I don't know. What is gorgeous about what you said there and coaching in general is you have a partner in getting to who you really are and how you really want to move through the world. And that wisdom is within you. The good coach pulls it out. Like that, I can't like shout. I'm not shouting here, but I can't shout that loud enough. how that to me is one of the grandest gifts of coaching. That's the gift of yourself there.
Yes, yes. And we have this saying, we coach the person, not the problem.
Mhm.
And it took me a long time to really understand what that meant. Even though I was doing it, I didn't know what that meant. And where I'm going with this is helping people to identify the good coach, right? Because there are so many people who are coaches, some of them certified, some of them not, some of them great, some of them not. But understanding that every problem starts with the person.
Mm. Yep.
Every problem starts with the person. And if we were to just focus on the problem, I remember I used to say, if you're looking for a coach that's talking about strategies and techniques, I'm probably not your coach, because you're not going to leave me with a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, doing it this way or that way. And I would feel strange and like I was being an ineffective coach, because people want, the results. They want, I'm saying the results, but they want that checklist, right? And especially those in the workforce, we're always taught you've got to have something tangible that you can take away. And I would feel like I was not coaching effectively, because I just always believed that unconsciously it didn't have anything to do with the problem. The problem's going to come and go, but if you don't know how to effectively address what's in front of you, you can learn how to deal with that problem. But what happens when the next problem comes up? But when you've gotten back to yourself, as you say, any problem can be put in front of you and you have the confidence to address the problem. You may not come up with the correct answer, but it's not going to knock you down. And
Mhm.
you have enough wisdom to say, I get to do it another way. I get to make another choice.
Yeah. It's almost like coaching gives you an untangible checklist,
Mhm.
right? It's like because we've been working on who you are at your core, who your being is, and how you want to be in the world, that the outcome of that is a lifelong journey that is beyond what a single piece of paper can hold. What it is a new set of, I'm going to use the word strategies, to think about yourself instead of like, oh, I had this really crummy altercation at work where somebody said a terrible thing to me. Now I'm going to question, what did I do to deserve that? I've got a different process now. That sucked. My knowing knows I didn't like that. And now I get to choose how I act
Yeah. Yeah.
next.
Mhm.
And I think when we can get to that body part, that body wisdom there is when we get to have real transformation.
Yeah. And understanding that I didn't like it, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Mean that I have to go into fight or flight. Like I have another option. I can still go into my ventral, more wiser self and say, yeah, I didn't like that. Now, how do I want to deal with it, as you said, right? Um, I am always fascinated when I'm able to say, yeah, that hurt and it's not my problem.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna write that down.
Right? Because for so long, I made my hurt, the hurt that someone else did or caused, my thing. Now, my pain is mine, but their behavior is not mine.
Mm,
And oftentimes, their behavior is a result of what's going on with them. It's just directed in the wrong place. Now, the old me would go back, I'd go and get in their place with them.
Yep.
And like today, I don't choose to do that. I choose to live in my place, and my place that I like to reside in most of the time is peace. And so I can say, ouch, that hurts. Didn't like it, and go back to my peaceful place and leave them in whatever place they're in. So,
Mm,
mm,
yeah, there's like another gift here too. Like, yeah, you can go back to your piece. You can also come back in a different way.
mm,
Um, which is just, this is me. This is the fire starter me. I'm like, yeah, that sucked. And I believe so much in your ability to be a better person that there's a different kind of conversation for us to have here and follow up. Like, hey, what was going on for you? That seemed really off.
yeah, I got in there, Torin. Like going back to my piece doesn't mean I necessarily ignore it. You know that, right? That it's
Good,
yeah,
good.
how you were feeling. I'm gonna let you
Like,
know that.
I'm like in our relationship, I think I've seen you come back.
Yeah, it doesn't
Go
mean
get your piece and come back. Good.
I'm gonna state something. Yeah, it's really funny. My sister has been bringing to my awareness um, the way that I handle things, and she goes, "Yeah, you just say what you're gonna say, and it's over." She's like, "That's not always nice." I said, "But it wasn't wrong." Oh, but it felt very hard. It's just amazing to me because she goes, your voice never goes up, your tone never changes. But when you think about what was said, it's like, wow, did she just say that? It's like- and so I'm watching now, like, what did I say? It's comical.
Yeah.
Yeah, we address things. I am not at all advocating avoidance. I don't know that I know how to avoid. Um I choose to avoid at times, you determine what's worth your while and what's not. But often I'm able to, it'll be something short, like, yeah, that's how you felt. Yeah, I'm gonna let you keep that and go on about my business. I don't know that I know how to say. I think there's a different way to handle that. I will get there. Yeah. Let's look at one other question.
I
Um,
do love what you said though about your sister. Like, that's not nice. Were we put on this planet to be nice?
yeah. What does that mean?
Right. What
That's
does it
always my
mean?
question.
Does that mean I'm gonna tiptoe around every single conversation? Mm.
Thank you for saying that. She's just like, what does that mean? Um,
And there's a big cost to being nice.
on self.
Yeah.
Yes. But here's the thing, and this is what I say to her. I am not intentionally invoking harm, right? I'm not intentionally causing harm. But how or what I say and how you receive it again is a your thing. And for me and what I know, I do my best to spread love. So even if I'm saying something and it's never a harsh tone, it's never venom behind it, um, I know that there is love under there. But if
Mhm.
you don't receive the love, that's not a me thing.
No. Definitely not.
I'm sorry that you felt that way about it. Like that was not my intent. But to I don't know what it is to nice it up, right? If there's something, if there's a conflict that you are presented with and you have to address,
Mhm.
then we address it in the manner that suits us.
Mm.
As I'm not an advocate for causing harm, and if you know that your response is anger and to start the fire without love underneath it, then maybe pause and go back to that conversation when that the maybe you're got embers going or something. They dying down. Or you got some water to go with it. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I got that. Yeah, what does nice mean?
Mm. Yeah, there's a difference between nice and I think Brene Brown makes this distinction, the difference between nice and kind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think kind is foundationally attached to love,
Yeah.
right? This is the this is where the truths exist,
Yes.
and it would be unkind to not say them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they don't always feel good in the moment. I think that's like I think maybe that's it. That's what nice is, right? It's like we're trying to make things feel good rather than be truthful.
And what? How that doesn't feel good, right?
You know?
Let me tell you a lie.
Yeah. It's totally cool that that terrible thing just happened. No big deal. But we do that. I mean, right? I'm guilty of that. Like, I just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. It's all good.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah.
That's that. I think that's some of that caretaking that that should caretaking that comes through as nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Here's one.
yeah,
Um, how can coaching help me build confidence and assertiveness in a male dominated world or male dominated environments?
trying to think about what would be different about this answer as
I
compared to the last question.
answer. That's all. That's why I'm smiling. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
do think though, like if you're struggling particularly with men, there's probably some healing to do around your relationships with men. Am I right? Trauma expert over there.
Listen, male dominated environments. I've been in this denounced patriarchy. um, yeah, if it's you're finding that it is solely with men, then I would say, yeah, that's probably a warning for you, an indication, something to be curious about. That's what I'll say. There may be some unresolved wound that can be looked at. Um, and as you come back to yourself, you really get into this space where it just doesn't matter. It's so interesting because that feels like to say it. That's something that has been said in society, like it's so cavalier, right? It doesn't matter, but it really doesn't.
Yeah, it really doesn't because you are so anchored in yourself, who you are, how you move, that their BS is not yours.
Yeah. Because your strengths are all so much bigger.
Hmm.
Who you are is so much bigger.
Yeah.
Your knowing is so much deeper.
Yeah.
And
And hopefully you can find a workplace too where the men have done their work. I
yeah.
think that's another place. Like I'm thinking of Chip, right?
Uh-huh.
Chip is one of our coaching friends um, and colleagues that we've worked with. And one thing I love about my relationship with Chip is when he's, you know, mid 50s white dude. When he's doing his mid 50s white dude stuff, I can be like, dude, gotta look at that. And he'll pause and he'll be like, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go look at that. And then it won't be an issue again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that also requires a friendship, right? Some sort of relationship.
Yeah. That's a good example of someone who's done the work and a real friendship. Because even in true friendships, there will be challenges, right? You don't want to just let them keep stumbling over themselves if it's not healthy for them, um, or stumbling over you. And he wasn't offended, right? That's where you see the love. That's where you see the growth, where there's no offense. And there's nothing wrong with him coming back and saying, you know what, I'm sorry that you didn't like that, but that felt all right to me. That felt authentic to me.
And then I know, right? I've got a new bit of information
Yeah.
where, is this the kind of relationship that
Mm,
I want to be in?
mm.
What kind of information is safe for me to bring into this relationship? And how do I want to show up here? Now I get to make choices, which is all about coaching. In coaching, we're all about making intentional choices. So I love it.
And in answering that question, even, in dealing with men in the workplace, or male leaders, that is a good example, right? That we just played it out. Torn said, Chip is our friend and all, but if something is said or done that you don't like, it's just like, hey, that might be an area that you can do better in.
Mhm.
That didn't feel good to me, and I don't know if maybe other people are having the same experience. If it is, then that may be something to look at.
Yeah.
And if it's someone who's really growth minded and desirous of being a better leader, they'll appreciate that.
Mhm.
They'll appreciate that. So I'm looking at the time,
Yeah.
and this has been wonderful as always. And I want to ask if there's anything else coming up for you.
Always. And I guess it's funny. Maybe this is a piece that I would want your listeners to take away is that, even for coaches, our work is always evolving and how we want to work is always evolving. And so what's coming up for me next is actually a nice long break from coaching. And not that it's that I won't be coaching. I'm just going to take the summer and focus on being a mom for the summer. And
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited about doing that. That being said, I'm still taking clients.
Yeah.
The priority is just my kid this summer. So I will work around my kiddo's schedule.
I love
Um,
it.
yeah. It feels like a really brave thing to do. Um,
Feels that
after
to me.
say that again.
I said it feels abnormal, and you're normalizing it. It is.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think, I've got some stories that I've made
Yeah.
up about moms who just do the mom thing. And now I'm just seeing like a real gift in just doing the mom thing. This is probably a whole another podcast Catherine.
Yeah,
Uh,
should bring that forth too.
yeah,
Ah, you know what? I think I'm gonna
yeah.
pause and keep going. Um, for the sake of time, let me close this one out. And I just want to run into this really fast because I think something's coming up. That you said I feel real brave and I have some stories. So those of you who are listening, if you want to hear the rest of that, I'm going terminate this conversation. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one because we're just at about an hour, and we are going to just keep this conversation going for about 30 more minutes, maybe, if that works for Torin. Um,
Okay.
but before we sign off, Torin, let's just tell everyone where they can connect with you.
Oh yeah, you can hit me at my email. It's Torin, Torin, at radical-coaching.com. Uh, yeah, feel free to shoot me a message. I love connecting with people.
And I am going to say, just as we begin to wrap, my prayer for you this week is that you will, again, give yourself permission to live the life that you know you were created to live. There's a longing, there's a deep knowing that there's so much more available for you. Step out, be bold and courageous, and solicit support so that you can be the amazing, wonderful, awesome, and sensational woman that you were created to be. And as I close, I just want to remind you that in this life, we get to choose. So choose to listen to the place from where your heart speaks and choose to live a sensational life. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Cathrine, where Cathrine aims to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Follow Cathrine on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Cathrine James, and visit www.cathrinejames.com. Remember, to live the life of your dreams, you must go within and return to the place where your heart speaks.